This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in our Capitol Bureau today in Sacramento. We are joined by Scott Lay. He is the editor of The Nooner, which you can see and subscribe at aroundthecapitol.com/Nooner. I read it every day, I admit it. I want to speak with you about 2016 and talk on a macro level to start. How will the presidential race impact what's happening here in California in our state legislature, in your mind, sir?
Well, certainly it'll drive up turnout. You know, we saw a all-time low turnout in 2014, and you know we could have, you know, a very high turnout in 2016, depending on who ends up on the ballot.
So let me ask you, I want to presume, just for argument's sake, that Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee, just for argument's sake. Does she drive turnout like, for example, her husband in '92, Barack Obama in 2008?
I don't think it's going to be a significant change election on the Democratic side. It would likely be seen as, you know, she deserves it. She's represented the Americans well around the world.
I see.
You know, there may be some draw because she'd be the first woman.
Right, yeah. Tell me about that. I mean, how does her gender play into turnout?
You know, at the end of the day, I don't think that very many additional women show up. Nor do I think many cross over. I mean, if you're a conservative woman and you have a choice on the ballot, and they're not somebody that's actually going after women, not suggesting anybody in particular.
Well, let's talk about that. If Donald Trump is a nominee, and I'm not making a connection based on what you just said, but if he is the nominee, what does he do for turnout, both Republican-wise and Democratic-wise?
You know, would have to be played out because we don't know how he would be as a general election candidate. We see how he is now. We also know that he was a Democrat in the past.
Right.
You know, he wavers on issues, as does Hillary.
Okay.
And so, the religious right is not really excited about him. But
what about the angry right?
They are. I mean, and they would show up. I
want to ask you, if I may, about Ted Cruz. What does he do in California if he's on the top of the ticket?
It would be similar to Donald Trump. Probably would actually do better in California than Trump.
Because?
Because he would just be seen as a little more level-headed and trustworthy to Californians.
Do you feel as if 2016 is the year where either in California or nationally we see the Latino electorate come out in significant numbers?
You know, I think they would come out for Hillary. I don't think that Bernie Sanders creates a big draw. I don't know if a Ted Cruz is on the ballot if Latinos cross over, you know, because he has Hispanic roots.
Well, does Donald Trump drive Latinos to come out to vote for the Democrat, Hillary Clinton, presumably?
Yes, unless he makes major overtures, going down the stretch. And the same thing would be true about women. You know, right now he's being perceived as not being the best toward women. Now, you know, there's plenty of time to correct that.
Right. Is there, though? I mean, he's made some statements that some would argue are hard to unwind.
Right, and that's the question is how does the Democratic candidate or allied interest groups, National Democratic Party, how do they, use that message? And that would probably be outside interest groups, so it's not pinned on that candidate.
I want to talk about our legislature. For the Democrats to take a supermajority, they would need 1 in the Senate, 3 in the Assembly. What do you think about the Senate? Is there a decent likelihood, a plausible likelihood, the Democrats could pick up 1 seat, net gain of 1?
Net gain of 1 is unlikely. There are 2 seats that are possible to go either way.
Right.
And so you could have an offsetting thing. 1 that's currently held by a Democrat, 1 that's currently held by a Republican.
And let's talk about those seats. You have the seat currently held by Bob Huff, former Senate leader. We have 2 Asian American candidates running. Ling Chang, currently a lead in the Assembly. Suki Kang, a former mayor of Irvine. Ling, a Republican, Suki, a Democrat. surprising that it's even in contest, given that Mr. Huff has held the seat.
Yes. And I think that, Ling Ling is probably the favorite. I have her down as the favorite.
Even in a presidential
Even
year.
in a presidential year, because of infrastructure, party infrastructure there. That's one of those districts where I easily could see votes for a Democratic president.
Right.
But when it comes down to local, people are often split their votes.
And she is a woman, and presumably that could be of benefit, presumably.
And Suki's only been in the district for a little while.
Right, he has moved into the district, but he does know the district, given that he's from that area.
But Ling Ling's part of Bob Huff's
cadre.
Machine, cadre,
whatever you want to call it. The other seat, which I know you mentioned, is the seat currently held by Carol Liu. Seems like a pretty safe Democratic seat, but there is talk about Republican LA County Supervisor Michael Antonovich.
Yeah, he's represented that area for since 1980.
Right.
He was in the legislature, and then he went to the LA County Board of Supervisors. And he's been running nonpartisan that entire time. So people have cast ballots regardless of their party.
But in 2016, when he will have a Republican next to his name?
That's one of those things with state Senate seats. There's a luck of the draw. The odd seats are up this year.
Right, exactly right.
Even seats are up in off cycles.
Right.
And that creates very different dynamics in terms of, you look at the presidential performance, you have to, or gubernatorial performance, you have to understand the differences in the demographics of who turns out.
Let's talk about, if we may, about the assembly side. Democrats would need to pick up 3 seats for a supermajority. Arguably 4 seats in play: the Stein-North seat in the Inland Empire, the Linder seat in the Inland Empire, the Kim seat in Orange County, and the Hadley seat in LA County, all Republicans in those seats now. You think the Democrats can pick off 3 of them?
I think it's very unlikely. 1 or 2, maybe. You have rematches, so young Kim against Sharon Quirk-Silva. That's a rematch.
Right.
David Hadley versus Al Muratsuchi.
And let's talk about those two, because one could argue that Sharon Quirk-Silva's win a couple of years ago was a bit of a surprise. And young Kim's victory last time was not as much of a surprise. I mean, is it even a seat that a Democrat should hold, given the numbers?
The demographics are shifting.
Oh, really?
But it comes down to, and the demographics are shifting to being more nonpartisan, not necessarily toward Democrats, but it's the Asian population has grown, and they have less partisan affinity than other groups.
I want to talk about the Hadley seat. I think that's fair to say that was an ambush. I don't think the Democrats expected Mr. Muratsuchi to lose in 2014. Is that fair?
He was on the at-risk list.
Okay.
But
he went down.
Yeah.
What do you think in 2016?
I think the Democrats, they don't have that big of a field to spend money on. They'll be able to spend a lot of money.
Well stated.
But he has a lot of money personally as well. So maybe offsetting.
He meaning Mr. Hadley?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Stein-North seat. That's a seat the Democrats have been trying to pick off for, it feels like centuries. It was held by Mike Morrell. He managed to slip in 2012. Mr. Stein-North pulled it off nicely in 2014. You think he can pull it off, the Democrat, in 2016?
That's one of those that really depends on Latino turnout. He's running against Abigail Medina, who's a San Bernardino Unified School District board member. It's a seat that's now represented in Congress by Pete Aguilar.
Okay.
Who, that was a back and forth, but I think he's safe this year.
You'll come back. He is Scott Lay. He is the editor of The Nooner, found at aroundthecapital.com/Nooner. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento. It's Local Edition.